name's Dr. Mathew Davies. I'm the head of the Department of International Relations, a position I've held since January of this year. And my work focuses very much on Southeast Asia, and particularly the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. I originally studied ASEAN in terms of thinking about questions of human rights, but more recently I've started to look at questions of gender management in Southeast Asia, but perhaps more specifically how it is that ASEAN as a regional organisation has designed itself and then over time redesigned itself in the face of competition, whether that be internally in terms of norm entrepreneurs or externally in terms of great powers contesting in the region. So the last article that I've published in Contemporary Southeast Asia was actually looking at how the Women, Peace and Security agenda has been institutionalised, or actually has not been institutionalised in Southeast Asia. What the article was arguing is that ASEAN has actually got a very long-term history of engaging with questions of gender management, but it does so through very traditional and parochial grounds. What I mean by that is it sees women ultimately as an economic category that has to be mainstreamed to develop economic growth, to improve the performance legitimacy of non-democratic elites, but that crucially doesn't understand gender as a political category and women as agents. This, of course, is a great impediment to the Women, Peace and Security agenda because the WPS agenda is quintessentially focused on increasing the political role of women in the management of conflicts and the resolution of those conflicts over time. I think the policy issue that I think Australia should pay most attention to, and in fact the international community should, isn't simply the question of climate change, but is especially the question of people migration and climate refugees. This is going to be a matter that I think is increasingly important in Southeast Asia. Whether it be in some of the Delta regions or the Philippines, we're looking at countries which have very large populations, but which are also incredibly exposed to the very first stages of climate change, whether that be rising sea levels or competition over water resources. It really does seem to me that this is a problem that countries of the region and Australia are going to have to face over the short term. It's not something that can be pushed back over the medium or longer term. The story of how I ended up studying international relations is perhaps a little bit potted. I did my undergrad and postgraduate in IR and history at the London School of Economics, and then after that I decided I certainly didn't want to do any more study of it and I was going to go and work in a financial institution. That lasted for a very short period of time, and I actually came to study for my PhD here at the ANU in 2004. My area of study during my doctoral analysis was thinking about questions of not only the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, but comparisons with the European Union and the Organisation of American States around the questions of how human rights are promoted and proselytised in international politics. Ultimately, I decided to stay an academic because it seemed to me that these questions of how the rights and democracy were being managed in these institutions was one that wasn't only ripe for study, but that was open to being studied from a Southeast Asian perspective. One of the things that I try and do perhaps more in my work than I have in the past is this question of how can the stories of Southeast Asia, the stories of these non-Western polities and societies, be used not only to demonstrate the power of Western theories, but actually to innovate and create new conceptual categories of appreciation, which we can then take back to the European and American mainstreams to show the innovativeness and also the significance of these non-Western societies.